So before we officially begin, I kind of want to apologize. I couldn't find a good cover for this series, so I'm just using a panel from it that I managed to pull off the artist's Twitter page. Sorry, it's just that there was no easy access to a good cover, and I promise to do better in the future when it comes to finding covers. Anyway, on to the official recommendation video. So, once more, we're diving into the world of Tapas, and I promise this will be the last one for this round, and maybe next time I'll get into some other webcomics. But this time around, we're stepping away from the world of character drama, romance, and possible suspense into the world of suspense, a world of action, power struggles, and the moral complications of becoming a divine being. I never said this was a simple series to get into. Anyway, our story begins with a young girl named Hannah and her younger brother Theo. The pair are enjoying some Saturday morning cartoons. Dear God, does anyone remember those things? It feels like forever. Anyway, the pair are enjoying their Saturday morning cartoons with cereal, nostalgia, when their mother sends them outside to get some exercise. The pair explore the woods and head to their secret spot where they find an odd rock and accidentally perform a ritual where they summon an eldritch horror who grants them both a wish. Theo makes some pretty simple childish wishes, while Hannah essentially wishes to become a god, with the power to create anything that she can think of. And, well, after getting her power, she destroys the rock connecting the being to the world, and then Hannah decides to use her power to save the world. We then cut to a century later with a robot named Ninabel. The world has been changed, becoming an odd hodgepodge of beings and robotic entities all birthed by Hannah. Ninabel is one of Hannah's advisors when Hannah comes up with a brilliant plan to save the universe, turning the Earth into a giant spaceship by attaching giant thruster rockets onto it. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong with that plan? Of course, she still has the mind of a child, so that's kind of understandable. Anyway, wanting to do something to stop Hannah and get her off this crazy scheme, Ninabel goes off on a quest to find Theo, who's been missing in all this time. At the same time, she's up fighting about an insurgency who plans to kill Hannah and use Theo as a weapon to do the deed, and also make him their new god. All the while, Hannah's great advisor, the Emperor's computer, is planning to use Hannah and manipulate her for some unknown factor, also using the other advisors as part of her scheme. At the same time, Ninabel meets a talking rabbit named Mr. Bun, who's off to hunt down the mysterious artifacts that could somehow help save the world. That is a lot of plot going on in this series. And yes, it is a lot of plot. So again, there's a lot going on in this story. And, well, that's kind of the way you have to do it when you have a story about a misguided god and how everybody responds to that. Seriously, people are trying to use her, people are trying to kill her, and people are trying to save her. And with all this going on, of course you have to deal with her as well and her consequences of her actions. So again, this plot needs to kind of be big, and oh boy, is it ever big. There are a lot of plot points and a lot of characters, and I don't feel like I have enough time to get into every little detail about all the characters and all the plot points. Let's just say Ninabel's a good robot girl, and Mr. Bun is surprisingly deep for a talking rabbit who looks like he's wearing Captain pajamas. Seriously, is that the design reference? Because it looks like he's wearing them. Obviously, you don't see him in the picture, but you get what I mean if you have read it. And honestly, I'm actually perfectly happy with the plot being as jam packed as it is. Again, there's a lot to like about this series, from the character designs to the plot to the characters themselves, and of course I have to mention the gorgeous artwork. I'm saying this earlier than I normally do in most of these videos, but the art here is chaotic and creative with a lot of amazing backgrounds. The character designs are also a mix of imaginative and chaotic, with varying different robot designs and varying different creature designs, all of which seem to not really have any design semblance of being, well, uniform, which honestly works perfectly for this crazy chaotic world that the story takes place in. Again, this is a world that was remade by a child god, so of course things look a little bit crazy and a little bit childish. So yeah, I'm actually down with that, especially for how great these backgrounds are. It helps define, again, this crazy, crazy world that's also very lovely. And, well, yeah, well, it just seems to work perfectly for the series. On top of that, the places that the characters end up exploring, or at least some sets of characters end up exploring, are true marvels of design and insanity at some points. It's truly all good. I love the art design for this series. And while I do love the art design because of how detailed the images actually are, this often means that we don't get a lot of progress in a single page, and two-page spreads are kind of a common thing here. They're great, they all look amazing, but again, the plot kind of slows down when we have a big action scene or a big moment because that moment takes up an entire page. But the backgrounds on that page look amazing. So this is very good for the visual aspect of visual storytelling. Again, there's a lot going on in this plot, and I can understand if you don't want to keep up with it, if you have, already read a series that has a lot of plot going on with multiple characters running around at once, then I understand not wanting to pick this one up. But yeah, this one is pretty much very intensely that. Again, a lot of things need to be explained, as it still feels that we're early on in the series. Some character motivations need to be explained, some character actions need to be explained, and yeah, that's sort of that about what happened in the 100 years between Hannah getting her powers and the now. Like, we know some of the events, just not all of the events. And we're slowly learning more as the plot goes on, which is how a good story should be. So yeah, if you're into reading a pretty weird series that has great art, but is pretty chaotic when it comes to its plot, then I highly recommend this one. If you don't want to deal with the craziness, I can understand, but please be aware, it's still a great series with the link in the description. So, with all that said, I'll be seeing all of you next time as we get into non-Tapas webcomics, because I have a webcomic stint right now, and I kind of want to talk about webcomics for a good minute. Till then, everybody, see you next time. And if the anime recommendation video comes out between the two that happen, because 3 episodes will pass, then just ignore this comment, because this is being recorded before the anime video for the season. So yeah, either way, till next time.